Welcome to Audacity Works, a podcast inspired by and dedicated to the working artist, the creative entrepreneur, and generally, doing the damn thing. This exists on the premise that the world belongs to those who have the audacity to believe that their lives have value. This is for you. Welcome to Audacity Works. I am your host, Rachel Strickland, and this is episode number 131. And it is all about being in the trenches of artistic creation. So why this subject today, you may ask? Well, it is because that's where I am. I sat down to record this podcast, and I record on Mondays for the Wednesday release, and I never necessarily know what I'm going to talk about. I look at my little spreadsheet of requests from people, which, by the way, is getting very thin. So if you have more requests, now would be a great time to tell me what those are. And I still have some suggestions that I'm working through, but they're going to require an expert other than myself, or there's some other component that means I can't record about them immediately. Like, okay, well, what the fuck do I talk about today? And the truth is that I'm just so deep into the trenches of creating this one-woman show that's all I can think about. So that's what I'm going to talk about. So in case you don't know, on June 20th, I am going to stage a 30-minute chunk of The Monstrous Feminine, which is my one-woman show that I've been building for a long time. It's been cooking for a long time. But this is at the invitation of local dancer and visionary Georgia Shrube, who's she is staging a group dance piece that is a retelling of that classic story, The Yellow Wallpaper. And she's asked me to double bill with her at the theater that evening, which was such an honor to be asked. And I still am like pinching myself that I get to be invited to do this. Is amazing. And then, of course, you have to make it work. You have to make the thing. I didn't have a 30-minute chunk of my show. I have one 8-minute chunk and one 10-minute chunk. We're like, all right, there's some space in there. So I got myself an artist residency at ARC Take Two Studios, which is another pinch me, am I dreaming situation. And all of this is very, very good news. So the situation now is that I have to make it, which means going into the studio for 3 hours at a time, twice a week. That's the schedule I gave myself. And just throwing buckets of spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks and what doesn't. And anyone can tell you how to approach the logistics of creating a piece of work, whether it's for the stage or for some other purpose. Logistics are easy. A plan is easy. But no one can tell you what to do when you're just in a studio, in a room, alone, with your brain. That's all you. And I've been in that space before many, many times. But not today, but for this, I've never made a show like this. I've always been using circus as a modality. There's not nary a circus bit in sight so far in this show because it hasn't been appropriate. It hasn't come up. It hasn't been knocking on the door. So the discipline that I've dedicated nearly 20 years to is not even present in the show. Now, luckily, I have been a preachy bastard for a long time, so I've given advice about this space more times than you can shake a stick at, and it appears that I have an opportunity to follow my own advice, which I have been doing. And that advice is maddeningly simple. It is just to really pay attention and to trust what is interesting to you. Now, this has to do with my own definition of success, artistic success at least, which does not really involve much outside participation. Not that I don't love being validated, because I really, really do. But just like we talked about last week in terms of getting feedback and knowing when to ask for feedback. When you're in the stage of creation, especially the one that I'm in right now, it can get real muddy real quick if you're bringing in other brains too soon. So with everything you do, like, don't run it through a lens of, well, what would my college professor say about this? Or like, what would an artist that I respect say about this stuff? No. What do you like? Do you like what you're doing? Are you interested in what you're doing? Because critical theory and deconstructed this and that, postmodernism, whatever, is very useful for talking about art that's already been made. I find it completely useless in creating art that does not yet exist. And the thing that I have to remember for myself is that my combination of lived experiences and tastes and opinions and judgments is unique to me. So whatever I have to say, even if I tell the same story that 8,000 other people have told before, it will be unique because it's coming through the filter of me. And that means if I want that expression to be as clear as possible, I really have to know myself. And that's where my gift for tunnel vision really comes in handy. Because I can compartmentalize like a motherfucker. So my job right now, in terms of this show, is basically to put the body in the room, habeas corpus, put the body in the room and do whatever is interesting to me. Document, take notes, write down questions. When the time is up, go home, get on with your life, rinse, repeat. It is too early in the process for me to be cutting things and editing. Right now is just the time for me to be collecting material. And here's how that's going. It's really fucking fun. I'm disturbed by how much I'm enjoying the process because, of course, our conditioning is very like suffering equals value. And, I reject that. But just because I reject it intellectually, even spiritually, doesn't mean that it's still not going to pop up. Because that's what social conditioning is. It's a glass box. You can see out of it, but you're still in a fucking box. So it kind of makes me wary. Like, I'm having such a good time. I'm obsessed with what I'm doing in there. I'm obsessed with my own ideas, and I think they're so much fun, and they're so ridiculous and over the top, at least at the moment. But the conditioning to have expectations of suffering has got me like looking around, shifty-eyed, like waiting for the other shoe to drop. Like, surely at some point I'll have to suffer in this process, and I'm not suffering. So does that mean that I'm like not that far in, or what? Can you hear what's happening? Because I can. And the other thing that is happening is, I said logistics are easy. Well, that's true, but they pile up. They pile up. And you just have to take it one bite at a time. It's just like eating a whale. One bite at a time is the only way to do that. And that's what I've been doing. And it's amazing how, like, yesterday Rachel really helped me out. Like, there was an antique trunk that Manflesh and I found at an estate sale like 4 years ago. I'm like, that's a perfect set piece for my show. And he's like, what show? I'm like, that one that I'll make one day. So we bought it. It was like $20. And it is just perfect. So then you have to order casters. And then you got to get the drill out and put the casters on the trunk. And then you got to wipe out the trunk. And then you got to figure out a way for the trunk to stay open without damaging these really, really old hinges. Things like that. Like, I need to make fake boobs and a fake butt out of foam. Yeah, that's something that I'm doing right now. So because giving advice is like a natural function of my life, here's how I'm going to package this self-indulgent episode that's really all about me into advice for you on your own creative journey. Step one would be to acknowledge what stage of creation you are in. I think of this in a couple of ways. One, the embryonic stage where it's still a twinkle in your eye and you're mostly just thinking about it and collecting little bits and, buying antique trunks 4 years ago. And this stage can last for years. It can last for years, and it doesn't have to, obviously. But that's the embryonic stage, right? Phase one is actively making shit. And during phase one of creation, you're in the studio, you're doing the research, both lab and library. And the thing to remember during stage one is to do your job. What is your job during phase one? Okay. Your job during phase one is to do what's interesting to you. It's to collect. It's not to edit. It's to collect. There will be plenty of time for you to litter the floor of the cutting room closet with beloved little darlings that you ended up having to cut. But now is not that time. Now is just time for collecting. That's your job. Do what's interesting to you. Be as obsessed with your own process as you can be. And just do your job. Now, at some point, phase two happens. When phase two happens, you got to start cutting shit. This can also be the phase in which your work has enough of a robustness to stand up to critique, your own taste strong enough. You have questions about the work and you would like to get feedback from someone whose taste you trust and who likes your work. And when that happens, you're like, I can't really move forward without something else that needs to come from outside of my brain. And I think that's when sort of the natural progression into phase two happens. That is like happening to me on Wednesday. Like, I have a trusted friend and accomplished artist coming into the studio to watch my rehearsal. I've gathered up and gathered up and gathered up, and I'd like to get her feedback and have her answer a couple of questions for me. Now, the mistake that we should not make is assuming that this is a linear process, because, that's dipping into phase two, and then I'm probably going to go back to phase one for a little bit because I still want to create some more material before I cut and cut and cut. So that's my advice to you. Acknowledge where in the creation process you are. Is it embryonic? Is it phase one? Is it phase two? And that's just one way that you can take possession of your creative process. And there's another area of the process, also not linear and can pop up at any time. We've mentioned it before. Might as well mention it again, and that's the desert of suck. It's when you go into the studio one day and you're like, this sucks, I suck, I don't want anyone to ever have to see any of this. I have no confidence in it whatsoever. If and when that happens to you, just remember it's not based in facts. And it doesn't mean there's anything factually terrible about what you're doing. You're just in the desert of suck, and it's a natural part of the creative process for most people. Another thing it's important to acknowledge while you're there. Instead of flushing yourself down the toilet, just acknowledge, like, I'm in the desert of suck. Okay. What do we do in the desert of suck? The only way to remain there is to do nothing. So keep doing what you were doing before, which is 1 bite at a time, 2 inches at a time. Just keep doing your work. The desert of suck feels permanent, but it's not. It's quite shallow. It's quite transient. And the only way out is through. Just keep moving. Now, for this particular chunk of the show, I have not reached the desert of suck yet. I might not reach it. That might not happen to me this go around. And remember, this is only just a 30-minute chunk, so there's loads more to come. But if I do reach it, I'll tell you about it. I did come to tell the truth. Okay, it's going to be a little bit of a shorter episode today because trenches. Yeah. So I'm going to wrap this up. I'm going to summarize and repeat. It can be helpful to acknowledge what phase of creation you're in, and then just remember to do your job. What's your job? Right now, for me, phase 1, my job is to do whatever's interesting to me, to collect, not to edit. So wish me luck, my friends. I will appreciate it. And if you have requests for other episodes, you can reach me always on Instagram at Rachel Strickland Creative or on Patreon at Rachel Strickland Creative. This podcast is powered by Patreon, and oh my God, thank you so much for making this possible. It would not exist without you. So much that I do would not be possible without you. So thank you for your trust, and thank you for believing in me. And thank you, all of you, for listening to me and letting me live in your ear for 16 minutes today. And if you are local to Charleston, there's a link in the show notes if you want to come see this thing that's crawling out of my brain in phase 1 at the moment. Would love to see you there. Okay, my friends, go do your job. Just do your job. And don't go back to sleep.